My heart is where the Hebrew home is. For where the heart is, that's where you find the Hebrew home. Hebrew home, Hebrew home. Good morning, Hebrew home. My home, my heart is where the Hebrew home is. For where the heart is, that's where you find the Hebrew home.
Good morning and welcome to another edition of Wendy Wednesday. Today is February 17th. It is quite chilly outside. I hear that yesterday we got to all of 52 degrees, but that is not the case today. I think the real feel was like in the single digits this morning when I left for work. It was actually just like 27, so it's a little chilly, but at least it's better than tomorrow's forecast. I don't know if you guys heard, we're expecting more snow yet again tomorrow, 6 to 10 inches, which, oh, I'm so tired of this snow. I don't know. How about you guys? So I'm joined in studio with the lovely and talented Antonique and Olivia. So thank you for being here. And we have a very special guest today, which is Deacon George. So welcome to Good Morning Hebrew Home.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you. So today is an important day in the Christian religion because it's Ash Wednesday. And I thought maybe you could start by just talking a little bit about what Ash Wednesday is. In a nutshell.
It's the beginning of a season, the season of Lent. It began as those who were going to join the Christian community at the Easter Vigil by receiving the sacraments of baptism, confirmation, and Eucharist. So coming into full membership after some 3 years of preparation. That this was a period of 40 days where they really went intensive on those biblical recommendations of prayer, fasting, and almsgiving, which are common to all of the biblical religions. As they were praying and fasting, then the community gradually developed that they were praying with them and for them. So kind of a solidarity, okay, that you're not in it alone, the community is supporting you. When there became fewer adult baptisms, and not that there aren't still, the focus kind of switched to that the members who were already part of the community reminding themselves of the commitments that they made in baptism, and in a sense going on a pause of self-reflection. This is our annual "How are we doing?"
Right.
To kind of quote, you remember Ed Koch always used to say on the
Yes.
Queensboro Bridge, "How am I
Right.
doing?"
Yes, yes, yes.
Well, in other words, for each of us to kind of say to ourselves, "How am I doing?"
Right.
And then to all of the things that can get in the way of becoming closer to God, so all of the temptations of the world, the flesh, and the devil, okay, that those are resisted with the antidotes of those more generic terms, the fasting, the prayer, and the almsgiving.
Now, a lot of people give something up for Lent, right? So, maybe it's chocolate, maybe it's alcohol.
Movies, smoking,
Right.
okay, whatever.
Right.
And in our Greek Orthodox communities, they're rather intensive. Okay, they give up a lot.
Like what?
No meat, no fish, no dairy products. So that means all of the things that we in the West, if we're not eating meat on a particular day, well, we could have an egg meal or we could have mac and cheese. Okay? If you're a Greek Orthodox, okay, no cheese, okay, no oil. It's rather rigorous.
Right.
But we're trying to emphasize ourselves from our point of view, the bigger picture that food is not bad in and of itself.
Right.
It's that I'm engaging in, call it self-denial, self-discipline, self-restraint, I think I had mentioned to somebody recently that when we go through those annual double checking on all of the policies and procedures of the Hebrew home,
Right.
that the explanation for the kosher rules is not primarily that there's something wrong with the shellfish,
Right.
but rather instead it is an exercise in self-restraint, so that you're giving up even good things, so that when there are bad things, that you've got the character, okay, to be able to resist, okay,
Right.
on things that are important.
Right.
That makes
do you-
sense?
Yes, there's an expression that I really like, which is to commit to one thing. You can at least commit to one thing, and that kind of reminds me of it, because I think everybody can commit to one thing. Whether it's being health or whatever, and that kind of that resonates with me. What you're saying with that expression, that I always try to live by. That it's good to commit to something. But do you give anything up for Lent?
Even though I'm not obligated because of my age,
Okay.
so I cut down on the amount of food that I eat during Lent, so I'm kind of a fasting.
Okay.
Again, in other words, that it's not so much. It's what you're saying no to that begins to take on more importance.
Right.
So we have in Lent that we don't eat meat on Fridays, which
Right.
is something that we used to do all the year.
Right.
Okay, and I like to say there could have been bologna in the refrigerator all week long,
Yes.
and it had no appeal to me, but on a day that I wasn't allowed to have it, okay, it was calling to me loudly from inside the box.
Right.
And so that's the kind of thing that we're talking about. It's that knowing yourself,
Right.
realizing in order to be better as a person, to get closer to God and our neighbor,
Right.
okay, that doesn't mean doing whatever you feel like doing, because sometimes, okay, bodies at rest tend to stay at rest instead of
Right.
being more active, okay, in the
Right.
pursuit of goodness.
So, and self-reflection is so important. How does this challenging world that we're living in with COVID, how has that impacted, if at all, the holiday, the tradition, the importance of reflection?
Okay. Obviously, that the name of this particular day
Yes.
is Ash Wednesday.
Yes.
That we used to mark it by the imposition of ashes.
Right.
And English-speaking countries used to take the ashes that many Christian groups are using, and we used to here in this country make a small sign of the cross with the ashes.
Right.
A kind of a reminder that when one was baptized, the beginning of the ceremony is that the minister marks them just with a thumb
Right.
with the sign of the cross.
Yeah.
So it's connecting back to that baptism.
Okay.
Ashes, obviously, you are dust, and unto dust you're going to return, out of the book of Genesis.
Right.
Okay, and a reminder of our mortality, that we all kind of think we have an infinity of tomorrows, when in fact that's not the guarantee. And COVID kind of reminds people of that.
Right.
Maybe not in a nicer way, that, okay. Because of the pandemic, my parish here, okay, did not do that usual thing that we did in English-speaking countries, but what is more widely used in Europe, which is sprinkling of the ashes on the forehead.
Yes, I heard about that today, that's what a lot of the places are doing, right?
Europe's been doing that all the time. Right? It was
Oh.
just English-speaking countries. It may have been a reaction to Cromwell and the Irish trying to hold on to their identity in the times of the big persecutions, okay, in the English-speaking church.
So here at the Hebrew Home, people who are Christian residents and staff, you'll be doing the sprinkling?
There'll be no sprinkling at all here at the home.
Okay.
In the same way, even the ashes are totally unimportant. Okay, their only value is as a sign of something interior going on. You don't need ashes. There's no church requirement to get ashes. It's just a custom,
Right.
a sign of something more important. What would be more important is the opportunity to receive the Eucharist, okay? And because of the pandemic, right? As long as it's going on, we're not able to have communion services here,
Right.
which are something that's way more important. And if we can't do the more important thing, we're
Right.
certainly not
Sure.
doing.
Yeah, that makes sense. So between now and Easter, any important traditions to talk about that will take place?
For the folks who have access to computers, okay, that there are several places where you could do the daily readings from Scripture. So Lent has its own special readings from the Hebrew Scriptures and from the New Testament over the course of the 40 days that are kind of like a review of basics. So there's a special opportunity to... I've heard a comparison that the Lenten readings are like you've invited people to dinner and you've put out the good dishes.
Yes.
Okay, so that the 40 days of Lent, the readings are like the gems that you really want to share with people. So reading sacred scripture, right? And trying to work more at not so much saying prayers, but being prayerful. So that there are several, certainly to read the Psalms, okay? The Psalms are not only examples of prayer, they're a school of prayer. They tell us the kinds of things that God himself wants us to be able to talk with about him.
Right.
Happy things and sad things, things we're proud of and things we're not proud of, but to keep the communication going. But also then that there are a couple of times in the Psalms where it says, "Be still and know that I am God." Okay? You don't have to use words, just relax and be still. Okay? And the presence of the Lord is already with you. Okay? To kind of enjoy one another's company. You don't have to talk to do that. Not like me, who's talking too much.
No, that's, not talking and reflecting and it's just so important in everybody's lives.
Right.
You know, it gives you a moment to pause and to slow down. And I think that's super important.
Okay.
How long have you been with the Hebrew Home?
I think it's now like about 5 years.
What brought you? How did you join us?
Your director of volunteers, Ms. Josephine Catalano,
Yes.
we were at a picnic together, okay, where her husband was preparing to become a deacon.
Right.
And she knew or had heard that I lived in Riverdale. And the priest who had been helping out, at that time living next door at the Neumann residence, his doctor didn't want him coming out anymore and knew that I was nearby and asked me to. So I began really as a volunteer.
Okay, got it. Well, thank you to Josephine for introducing us to Deacon George, that's for sure.
Okay.
And how did you fall into this line of work? Did you always know that this was a calling for you, or when did the light bulb go off?
Not an easy question.
We ask the tough questions here at Good Morning Hebrew Home.
Probably lots of people in my life have over the course of the year said, think about this, think about this. My two children are 12 years apart, and one of the things I was conscious of, there's a thing that the Protestant Christian groups have to face, which is called minister's kid syndrome.
Okay.
That it's tough growing up as the child of the minister.
Okay.
That the spotlight is on you, people have expectations which are really not theirs to have.
Right.
Okay. So I always put it off to the back burner.
Okay.
I would wait until my children were older, and then the second one came, so that was a longer wait. And then towards the end of my teaching career, with retirement on the horizon, but one day in the kitchen, my wife turned to me and said, "You should think about becoming a deacon."
Really?
And that was somehow different than anybody had said it before.
Wow.
That it was now time. And so I had always been a religious education teacher, but whereas this is now, I began the formal process of studying theology at the seminary in preparation for ordination.
Wow. Oh, so it was later in life. It wasn't that you were...
These gray hairs have a background.
And how long did the process take once you made that decision to become one?
5 years.
So that's a big commitment.
Yes. I was kind of lucky because I had 2 degrees in theology already, okay, that they cut out a year. But so it was for me 4, but it's usually 5.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on
Okay.
Good Morning Hebrew Home. It was really a pleasure to chat with you and to learn about the holiday and the meaning of it.
Okay.
So we appreciate you being here.
Now, ordinarily, we have a Friday service at 11:15, so at least virtual, since we can't gather together. And there will be a virtual service today
Yes.
at 11:15.
Yes.
On a Wednesday, but not our usual Friday. Not Channel 8, but Channel 88 today.
Right.
Because it was pre-recorded.
Yes.
Okay.
So the deacon will be on very soon at 11:15, as he said, on Channel 88. And the rabbi, I believe, is also on at 11:15 on Channel 8.
Correct. All right.
So there's a lot going on today on the TV. So tune in, if you can, to the deacon or the rabbi, or go back and forth and learn about both. We have additional programming later. We have Larry, we've got Deborah, we've got the rebroadcast of our program as we always do. So, you know, it's a cold day, so I guess stay under the covers or just enjoy what we have in terms of online programming. And my thanks to you, Deacon. Really, it was a pleasure.
My privilege.
And thank you, Olivia. Thank you, Antonique. And we will see you next time. Take care, everyone.
Hebrew home, good morning, Hebrew home. My heart is where the Hebrew home is. For where the heart is, that's where you find the Hebrew home. Hebrew home, good morning, Hebrew home. My heart